Howdy again. Be careful to bounce everything you've heard today in this series on taxes off your tax expert. I'm not a tax expert. I don't want to be. I don't even do my own tax returns. But I've learned the right questions to ask, and that can make a huge difference. Now, you're starting out as a sole proprietor, and eventually you'll start, if you've elected Manatech as your home-based business, you'll start making some good money, most likely, if you take it seriously and apply what you learn. And that's what we're here for. So the day will come when you may be perceived as wealthy, and somebody targets you for a lawsuit, one of these frivolous lawsuits that you got to pay $10,000-$20,000 to shut down and have them go away and leave you be. And that's no fun. They say the likelihood of being taken to court in a lawsuit is greater than your likelihood of going to the hospital, which isn't much fun at all. So you know, by the time you're presidential, you probably won't want to be a sole proprietor anymore, because if there's a lawsuit, all your business assets are liable, but all your personal assets, your home, your cars, your jewelry, your own personal assets can be taken in a lawsuit. So you want to put up a good wall between your business assets and your personal assets, so that if your business is sued, you won't be sued. You won't be liable. You won't be vulnerable. The best way to deal with a lawsuit is by setting up a limited family partnership. That's what I have learned, and that's what I did. And in a limited family partnership, limited partnership, you have a general partner who owns maybe only 1% of the assets, but has 100% of the control. And that's a general partner. And the limited partners have no control, but they own all the assets. So if a lawsuit comes along, you can't blame the limited partners because they had no authority. They had no control. They just own everything. So you blame the general partner, and it's a general partner that is taken to court. And if the judge finds that the general partner is at fault and awards the plaintiff with $100,000, let's say, then that's not good. Of course, you can't actually pay that because you don't own anything. All the assets are owned by the limited partners. And you and your wife get together at the dinner table and decide that you're not going to take any distributions that year, so there's no money either. There's no money, there's no assets. But the IRS requires the person who sued you to pay taxes on that $100,000 whether or not he gets it. And he's not going to get it. And he still owes the taxes on it. He'll be so furious, he turns around and sues his his defense, or the prosecution, his lawyers, for malpractice. And there's not a law firm, probably in the United States, that'll go after a properly structured limited family partnership, because if you win, you lose. Now, that's just one of the tornadoes that we might run across, the issue of liability and lawsuits. The second tornado is taxes, because if you set up as an S Corp or an LLC and you're more than a 2% owner, you can't take any employee benefits or any medical insurance, or none of your health insurance premiums, copay, or any of that kind of stuff qualifies as a business expense. You can't write that off 100%. So the best way to maintain the tax advantages of a sole proprietorship, I learned, was that I needed to set up a C corporation. The problem with the C corporation is you might end up with double taxation. In other words, if the corporation makes a profit, it pays a corporation tax on the profit, and then when the profit is distributed as dividends to the stockholders, they pay a dividend tax, and so it's the same money is being taxed twice. So what I was taught was that I have to make a profit, I have to prove this is a legitimate business, but I can control how big that profit is by anticipating my expenses and then managing the money that comes in. Perhaps my C corporation would be a management entity that would manage my limited partnerships, for example. And every month the limited partnerships would pay, a management fee, but once you're a corporation, and I learned I could be a one-person corporation, and also the only employee, and if you do it all right, this is where you need expertise. You need tax experts, because you can do it. You can set it up right but run it wrong, or you can set it up wrong but run it right, and either way won't work. So it's important to have professional advice. But you can inquire about a C corporation to preserve your tax advantages. The third tornado is when you die. You want to avoid estate taxes and probate, which makes everything public and ties up your assets and the checkbooks and that sort of stuff. And so I learned the best way to do that, to avoid all those problems, is to put everything I own into a living trust, and to have a will, a carryover will or flow over will that basically says anything that's not in the trust when I die, the will stipulates that whatever is remaining should go into the trust. Everything's supposed to be in the trust. Well, a trust does not die. So whether or not I die, that's irrelevant. Everything keeps on going as normal. Maybe a new trustee steps into my place, my position. But this is how the wealthy in America manage things, the foundations and trusts, because they don't want to own anything. Because then you got to pay taxes on it, and you're subject to lawsuits and that sort of thing. They don't want to own anything. They just want to control everything. And so they do that through these separate entities that they have management oversight on. And so a living trust can be modified. It's revocable, so it can be modified during your lifetime. You can put things in, take things out, and change beneficiaries and that kind of stuff. And then the fourth tornado is capital gains on appreciated assets, whether it's real estate or investments, whatever that might be. Now, you just have to understand that you get to a point where you can't keep it all. You either give it away to the government as taxes or to nonprofit organizations. Now, I hate the idea of making the government my #1 charity. There are other organizations I'd like to support. And so what I would do is I would set up a charitable remainder trust, a CRT. And the charitable remainder trust is the best way of controlling everything that I have, as long as I don't use it for myself. And every year I have to give a portion of it away to nonprofit organizations. So if I have personal investments, stocks or bonds or whatever the case may be, I don't want to sell those as me, because that'll generate a big capital gains if I've made a profit. So what I would do is I would give the stock to my CRT, and then the CRT can sell it without suffering any capital gains. And I'm managing the CRT, so I can buy and sell and do all that kind of stuff. And when I gave it to the CRT in the first place, whatever the value is, that is a charitable tax deduction. I can write that off my income taxes. And so it's a win-win situation, and I can reinvest, and I can manage everything in the CRT and get paid a manager's fee to boot. So those are the four main tornadoes that we have to deal with: how to deal with taxes, how to deal with liability, how to deal with death, and how to deal with capital gains. There is one other that you might want to keep in mind, and that's an ILIT, an irrevocable life insurance trust. The IRS collects more money on life insurance policies that end up in wills than on anything else. It's huge amounts. You aren't taxed while you're alive as the value accumulates, the cash value, whatever. But when you die, it becomes part of your estate, and your inheritance, your ancestors will get only a fraction of what you intended for them to get. They'll be paying a lot of taxes on that. So you put it in an irrevocable life insurance trust. Once you set that up, it's irrevocable. You can't change anything. But then the trust owns it. When you die, it doesn't affect anything because here's another trust but this is an irrevocable trust that now controls everything. So those are the things that I've learned that help me with asset protection. And so you can just inquire with your tax expert or your financial planner about the advantages of those. But anyhow, it's been great talking with you.